Good morning, everyone. This is Lori Delk-Radecki with the Nashville Networking Group. So we do these online every single Tuesday right here on Zoom, as well as we meet 6 times a month all over Middle Tennessee in different cities every week. So if you are not on our schedule and you would like to be, go to nashvillenetworkinggroup.com. You can fill out the form there and we will send you an email with a reminder each week, as well as who our speaker is and which location we are meeting at. So we always have a different speaker who talks to us about different tips, tricks, ideas, things that can help us both in our personal as well as our business life to help get us to that next level. After that, we go around the room and we have everybody give their name, what they do for a living, and how we can better refer other people to you. Before and after the meeting, we have open networking so everyone can get to know each other a little bit. And then we also have a time to exchange business cards. Obviously here online, we do it virtually in the chat and have just time to get to know each other. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So our speaker today is Mr. Blaine Little. So please give him your attention.
There we go. That's probably a little better. Hello and good morning, everyone. It is just barely still morning. And today I'm going to talk about being an expert and what it means to be an expert. Has anybody ever met someone who calls themselves an expert and after just a few minutes, you're thinking, you're not an expert? Or perhaps to go the opposite way. Someone has introduced us as an expert and we think to ourselves, I'm not an expert. What is an expert? And we're going to talk about the different stages of competency. There's 4 of them I'm going to cover. There's actually 5. And I'm also going to spend a little bit more time around stage 3 and 4 and try to convince you that you may be more of an expert than what you think you are. So I have a little graphic, and I think Margot, are you able to see that in the chat as well? Did you come in on time? Okay, so if you want that, you can follow through with that. But basically, I'm just talking about if there's sort of an XY axis to look at this, it's how competent, in other words, how good or proficient are we versus whether we're conscious about what we're doing and where we know that we are. Okay, so I'm just going to start out. The first level there is as a novice. So in other words, you're unconscious, you're an unconscious incompetent, brand new. And this is below beginner because at least a beginner is trying to understand, but you're a novice, brand new. And it's the old adage of you don't know what it is that you don't know. How are you supposed to ask questions to gain more information if you don't know what it is that you're doing? And that realization is one of the things that kind of, I guess, pushed me into training years ago. And I started out in real estate, and my leader mentor at the time, if you ever went to go ask that individual a question, they would belittle you and try to make you feel ignorant for not knowing what the answer was in the first place. Now, 20 years later, and my broker's license since about 16, 17 years, I look back and I realize that person didn't know the answer themselves. They didn't know. So a very basic question, they didn't know. So it might have been that I knew more than that individual at the time. Who knows? But you don't know what to ask because you don't know exactly what's missing. So that's really a novice. And then you get into, and I call this other stage the beginner stage, because at least here you're kind of digging in to what it is that you want to do. So you're a conscious incompetent. In other words, you start to get some initial information and you think about it and you kind of scratch your head and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know how bad I was. But that's a light bulb moment, because then at least you can study and try to get the training that you need, gain the knowledge that you need, gain the expertise that you need. And that's a good thing. When there were all these displaced welders off of the pipeline earlier in the year, so many of them felt that it was kind of a career ender, because working on that pipeline as a welder, they were journeymen. So they were beginners in what they were doing. And by the end of that project, they will have become a very competent welder. It would have been a feather in their cap so they could move on to other jobs. And now they kind of missed out on that. And to get those sorts of jobs is very difficult, where you can actually learn. So that's what I call the beginner. Then you're a conscious competent. This is where you kind of hit the attitude of, I'm good and I know I'm good. And that's kind of really where we all want to be, is there. But even there, sometimes that can be a little bit of an issue for us. And it's we know what we're doing, we know what the benchmark is, and if there is other things that we do need to learn, like certifications, then we know what certifications that we need to get. But we look around and maybe other people are struggling a little bit more than we are, and we start to second guess ourselves. And that's where the imposter syndrome kind of kicks in. And this is where I want to spend a little bit of time. It's between stage 3 and stage 4. Imposter syndrome can really kick in, and you start to second guess yourself simply because in the past you benchmark yourself against others to see what they were learning and how they were developing. And then you get to the stage where you look around and other people are struggling a bit more than you, and that's only because you've surpassed them in skill. But it's human nature to sort of second guess ourselves sometime, and that imposter syndrome can kick in. Now, I'm a professional magician, so I am actually an imposter. And it was once stated that a magician is actually an actor playing the part of a magician, and that really is true. But sometimes I'll perform an effect or a little card trick or something at a fundraiser or cocktail party, and I'll just get these oohs and ahs, and people just like stop and honestly have to think to myself, am I really waves of people saying, oh, I can't believe that. That's just amazing. How did you do that? Am I deserving of that sort of attention? Because what I did just kind of comes common, it's common sense. It just comes second nature to me now. And so we have to safeguard ourselves against falling into that trap of questioning our ability. We have the ability. We know we have the ability, but unconsciously, our mind tries to trip us up and say, are you really that good? Are you? Being in real estate, I'm a real estate trainer, have been for about 16, 17 years. And I will teach a lot of classes. Sometimes if I'm teaching brand new people, I will remind them, look, you've been through 120 hours of real estate coursework. You've taken and you passed the state exam. And I always joke, some of us like that exam so much, we took it twice. So sometimes we don't nail it the first time, but you passed it. And you've hung your shingle, so to speak, your license with a brokerage company in town. You join the local realtor association. You've done everything needed to be. And there's so many people lacking in confidence because, well, what if they ask me a question I don't know? And I'm like, well, I'm 20 years in the business. They're always asking me questions I don't know. And the nice thing about real estate is it really is one of these things where you do a good amount of research. Yeah, I know a lot of things, but many times I'll have to research certain ordinances and different variables. But I try to impress upon them, look, you know 100 times more than the average person trying to buy or sell a house. You may not think that's the case because maybe you've not gotten enough experience. Okay, and that's valid. Okay, fine. So you don't feel confident in the experience. Am I really doing this the right way? But you understand 100 times more than the average person out there understands, and especially by being in virtue of my class, taking that continuing education. And so I really want to impress upon them and impress upon you all. Do not fall for that lack of confidence. Be bold. If you know what you're doing is right and you have good intentions, move forward. Just keep moving forward. Do it. All right. So that's going to bring me back to the last part of my stages that I'm talking about. The last one on the graphic that some of you may have is you're an unconscious competent. And have you ever met anyone who they really do things without thinking about it? I mean, they just do it. If you've been in sales and you've had a sales force of at least half a dozen, you probably got that one guy, that one gal who just, boom, they're top. They knock it out the ballpark every single month. And people will go and ask, how do you do that? And they say, I don't know, it just happens. And you're about to say BS. Well, they may be wanting to keep their state secrets close to the vest. Okay. But many times they can't explain what it is because they're so in their head and in their subconscious, they just do it. So they don't break it down and analyze it. And that's someone who is an expert. And then I have what I call the fifth level of competency, which is the master. And this is where you've kind of come out of yourself, and you can sort of maybe almost like an out-of-body experience, not really, but you can step back from what it is that you're doing and see how everything moves. And in that case, you can explain what's going on, and you are at that point what I say a master, or is someone who is a good trainer. You can teach other people what to do. But I would really encourage you to not get stuck between steps 3 and 4. Don't let that lack of confidence come into your head. And if you know what you're doing and you have good intentions, move forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Blaine. And so if you've been watching us online, join us next week, every single Tuesday, right here on Zoom. You need to be a part of the full hour, 11:30 to 12:30 Central. If you want to meet and network with the people before and after the luncheon. Also, if you're meeting with us in person, or if you're in the local Middle Tennessee area, go to our website, see our schedule, NashvilleNetworkingGroup.com. You can also join our group on Meetup, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn to get notifications of when and where we are meeting. This is the end of our recorded portion. So thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Bye-bye.